totally out of control, grassroots basis, are we going to stop doing this? Because it's not just the elites that are doing it, it's all of us. And we have the power because a few people cannot control the many when the many decide that they're going to take their toys and go play in a different game.
Well, I'm going to come back to that in a second. Questions or comments, please send them, email them to us at dj@kzyx.org. So once again, questions or comments to Catherine Austin Fitz, one of leading women in global finance, at dj@kzyx.org. Catherine, give us a blueprint for action. Give us a business plan for specifically. How would you break down what you just said?
The first thing I would do is positioning is 2 hours long. But basically what it says is, okay, here are the scenarios of what could happen in the future. Here are the areas of opportunity for your time and your money. And then here's how you kind of, can bring it together in particular portfolios or sort of ways of living, and it really walks you through what are the issues going forward, and what are the things you can do about it, and then it comes down to every person's individual situation, because everybody's different, John, and the way we have to organize this is looking at this information. Each one of us has to say, what can I do with this information that will give me energy in the short term? Because the number one thing to do is to get each person out of the inflation trap that we're in. Everybody's being drained by a falling dollar, and many people don't even see it or understand it. So part of it is really unique to each person's situation. But I would encourage all of your listeners to just get positioning or come and hear us in Mill Valley.
All right, let's promote that right now. You will be in Mill Valley when?
I'll be in Mill Valley on the 29th and 30th of August, and we're doing a lecture on the 29th. It's at the Mill Valley Community Center, and the workshop on the 30th. So we really go into great detail on the 30th, and it's positioning your assets for growth in uncertain times. And the interesting thing about it, John, because I love being in the Bay Area, the interesting thing about it is Barack Obama's acceptance speech is the evening of the 28th.
Very good.
So we'll have the 29th and 30th to go into detail of, okay, now, what does it mean to your money?
Okay, and tell us about your tape, Positioning Your Assets.
Assets is really, when I first started to come out to California in about 2001 and do a lot of radio shows, I got what I was talking about, John, is the same thing you're talking about. What's the corruption, trying to warn people about the financial corruption and what was going on in the centralization. And I got inundated with thousands of questions of what does it mean to this, very specific things, my IRA, my job, my, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to work for years trying to figure out and answer all the questions, and from that finally emerged a framework. And it literally has taken me many, many years to emerge something which I think is really a simple overview framework to help people grapple with how do I get my money to safe ground, how do I get my assets to safe ground, and do it in a way which contributes to a better world and to real transformation so that I can be an optimist.
Catherine, on that note, this is Jay. What can you talk a little bit about how the financial markets, how the debt market is not a sustainable market to be able to charge interest on money as it goes throughout the world? Doesn't that just consolidate the money at some point in the end of the game?
Well, what you have when you use debt in an economy, debt can put people out of alignment with each other. When that debt is guaranteed by the federal government, what can happen is you can end up financing all sorts of activities which are unproductive. So, for example, I can spend $50,000 a year as a nation, paying people to go sit in HUD housing and not work. Or I can pay $150,000 to have those people sit in jail and be watched by other people and not work. And so you get these phenomenally unproductive, systems engineered. Now, ultimately, you would think that that system would collapse because you're spending more and more money paying people to do things that do not create the economic value you need to pay back the debt. And the reality is what we've created is a global system where, in fact, a whole bunch of people buy that paper and they hold that currency because there's a military behind it.
And you also have to mention the power of leverage. It's most hedge funds are leveraged somewhere in the range of 30 to 40 to 1. And that's, I want to explain to our listeners, I think that's why we're experiencing the current meltdown in credit markets. I like to compare, the metaphor I like to use is mad cow disease. What we're seeing in financial institution is a herd. And what I think I've just blown my chances with Merrill because they presumably lead the herd. But
no, John, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm coming to you. I'm just going to assume you're going to be on my board and you're going to help me make it happen. Incidentally, George Soros' son is interested in this, and so is Templeton's son. And I love them both.
Two fantastic investors.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we have here is Wall Street acts like a herd. Everyone gives a lot of lip service to contrarian this and contrarian that.
Well, but think about it. If you, John, if you were going to ask a whole series of sovereign nations to do a series of things that would bankrupt themselves, the only way you could get that to happen is if you were willing to pay the leadership fantastic amounts of money to do it.
Correct.
So. If it just goes to show you that if you're willing to pay people absurd amounts of money, that they will do absurd things.
Absolutely. My point with the mad cow disease was that as the herd leveraged up, you now have the deleveraging of the herd, and that's exactly that's the phenomenon we're experiencing in this subprime meltdown.
Right. And my question is, because I do think we're watching the first global pump and dump. And so the question is, how much of that leveraging is being engineered through G8 and the BIS?
Exactly. What do you see as the next pump and dump? What happened? What
Green.
Can we expect?
Green. Sustainable solutions. What people really want to invest in are real solutions. And there's much in the green idea, which is fantastic. Friend of mine recently said to me, green equals no waste. And we're looking at an economy with tremendous amounts of waste, both material and financial. So it has a lot of resonance with people, and yet my concern is it's that, that desire for real solutions is going to be used for, another .com kind of situation. So I think that's one thing. But the other huge ongoing sort of trend to watch out for is privatization. I call it piratization. And my fear is as municipalities really suffer from what's happened, we're going to see piratization of state and local assets.
Interesting. Boy, I could run with that one because I have a few local issues myself. But I'm going to pass on a question from a listener.
Okay.
Question is, how would you invest $10,000 to $50,000 since banks have all but shut down? Would you recommend holding deeds of trust and promissory notes on first trust deeds?
What I would strongly recommend you listen to positioning because the answer is more complex